What's up guys, ProDragon07 here, and today we're talking about the endgame of OSRS and how to escape it. There are plenty of videos out there talking about how to escape the mid-game, so you can get into raids and all that stuff, but what about when you're tired of doing high-level content and you want to revert back to a simpler time in your OSRS journey? I've got you covered here. I'm going to show you how to escape the endgame and go back to the mid-game. Now, obviously, if you're a maxed player, nothing is stopping you from going back and doing mid-level content. The only issue here is that this isn't the same as actually being a mid-game player. You'll just be a maxed player that's being inefficient. So you may think, hey, I can just make a mid-level ult, that'll be fun, I can relive the glory days. Wrong again. Now you're just an endgame player with an ult. To go back to the mid-game, you need to find a way to actually regress both your account and your mentality. To start this off, you're going to give away all your endgame gear and drop your untradables. That means saying goodbye to your Infernal Cape, your BIS Quiver if you have that, your Max Cape. Everything has to go. From here, you should stop playing OSRS entirely for about a year, so your knowledge of endgame bosses becomes rusty. After your little hiatus is over, go ahead and hop back on, get some mid-level gear setups, and start grinding some mid-level bosses. It's important that when you're killing these bosses, you do not want to be too efficient. You are not some late-game pet hunter, you are now a legitimate mid-level player. If you start making micro-efficiencies to your kills, you may accidentally edge your way back into endgame, so this means no Wooks walking on Vorkath or gear switching on Zulrah, that kind of stuff. To prevent yourself from making too much gold bossing, you should aim to die about 4 times per hour and try to make more and more mistakes with every trip. Now is the time to start walking through acid pools and going AFK during one-shot mechanics. All the dying will cut into your kills per hour drastically, but to make it even worse, you can take a 5-minute break after every death to do some deep breathing exercises and calm yourself down. A trait that many of the best OSRS players have is that they keep grinding and overcome challenges. So you need to pride yourself on giving up almost immediately after a challenge presents itself or when you hit any sort of setback. You are the guy that dies on Vorkath, logs out without reclaiming your gear, and then logs back in 3 days later only to die in the wilderness and then realize you just lost half your bank. This is of course another setback, which gives you an excuse to do nothing but bank stand for the next 3 months. As you gradually lose your ability to do this content at all, you can move down into Barrows and then work your way all the way back to mid-level Slayer. Simply skip any Slayer task with a level requirement beyond 75. Gargoyles are your bread and butter once again, and it never felt so good. As far as skilling goes, since it's possible you are maxed or close to it, you should simply pretend all your skills are 75 and not do any content that this level would not allow for. You'll need to make some manual adjustments to certain training methods to simulate a mid-level experience, such as dropping high-level fish in Temperos or throwing runite ore on the ground when you get it in the Motherlode mine. Since level 75 in a skill requires around 1.2 mil XP, you have another 11.8 to go before getting your skills back to 99. Refer to this experience chart on the wiki to manually keep track of what level your skills are and adjust your training methods accordingly as you level up. If you have any skill capes, obviously don't wear them, and preferably you should just throw them on the ground to keep this delusion going. As for quests, obviously you can't redo them, but what you can do is find other players that are doing them and follow them around throughout their quests. You're basically going to live vicariously through these people as they tackle all your favorite quests like Underground Pass and Monkey Madness. When you're following these people around, you want to let the quest play out naturally without helping them too much. Even if they get stuck, you're just along for the ride. With that being said, you should not hesitate to give these people plenty of real-life advice. Anything from financial planning to diet and exercise routines. The sky is the limit here. You'll be spending a lot of time following people around through quests, and so you aren't just going to be quiet that whole time, so you may as well pass on some valuable life lessons. You're also going to want to do some mid-level bank standing. This includes standing at the Grand exchange, and occasionally alching a few battle staves, while you speculate about bosses that you want to do in the future but you aren't quite ready for right now. This is where you're really going to start coming into your own. You'll be conversating with other mid-level players, making plans that will never materialize about how you're going to learn raids together. You'll be asking high-level accounts for advice, and occasionally getting in arguments with them, depending on how condescending they are. You'll also be giving low-level players canned advice, such as do Slayer or do quests. You can go on like this for weeks at a time, logging in, bank standing for a while, and then eventually getting sidetracked and getting AFK logged without actually making any progress. In the meantime, you can focus on complaining about various aspects of the game on Reddit while pitching terrible ideas for content that you wouldn't even do anyway. This is a great time to start devoting 4 hours a day to watching various guides on YouTube and Twitch, and letting this inspire you to map out a detailed list of goals for what you want to accomplish with your account. Once you have this roadmap put together, you can proceed to put it on the back burner for the next 3 years. If you start having unwanted urges to do high-level content, then it might be time for a hard reset. Start an ultimate Ironman and take it slow. Just enjoy the game. You can give up on this account around 300 total level, at which point you'll be reinvigorated to hop back on your mid-level main. Now, you might think that after a while the mid-game would get kind of boring, seeing as you're not progressing to endgame and you're stuck there eternally. And you're right, this is why your main goal will be regressing even further back into the early game. You should continue to follow people through quests, working your way backwards until you find yourself in Lumbridge, trying to pressure people into doing Cook's Assistant immediately after they spawn in off of Tutorial Island. You can carry around various brews everywhere you go to lower your stats when you're fighting low-level monsters, have some low-level fun by killing some cows, and then running to Al Kharid to get the hide stand. If you're up for a challenge, maybe go kill some hill giants, and then run the full inventories of loot directly to the GE. At this point, you can cancel your membership and hang out on free-to-play as you approach the earliest stages of your RuneScape career. Finally, you can log off of OSRS entirely and start playing whatever game you were into before ever touching RuneScape back in the earlier mid-2000s. For me, that was Club Penguin, so I'm gonna hop on there now. Goodbye.